Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Real Estate Essentials 101, how to research, find and buy property the smart way. Today, the topic's going to be delivered by Tim McKibbin from the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales, and he's also joined on stage by Payne, who's the Deputy President of the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales.
Anyway, let's launch into it. I guess looking at real estate, the first thing I can say to you is it is not an exact science. Okay, so you cannot push something into a formula and come out the other end. That's just not going to happen. Every single property in New South Wales is different to another one. People often say to me, what's the property market doing? And my response is, we're probably dealing with thousands of property markets. I've seen movements in prices from one side of the street to the other. And that's quite obvious in areas where you might have, for example, an ocean view. Another side of the street doesn't have those. Either side of the street can move quite sharply. So there is no exact science in this, and there's a little bit of self-discovery in it as well, which we'll go through. But I wanted to highlight a couple of things that some people have asked me over the years about what's a medium house price and what's an average house price. There's a difference between a medium house price and the average house price in those set of numbers. The medium being simply the one in the middle. Okay? Christian, I'll draw you into this. When we start talking about price and value,
to give you a bit of an idea on how you should approach it, if you break it down into, let's say, land and improvements, you might find that one block's easier to compare to another block, particularly if they're next door, and then look at the improvements as, this one's got a pool and air conditioning, this one's only got 2 bedrooms. So it's definitely not an exact science, and all you're trying to do there is give yourself an idea as to where the value should lie, and that's how a valuer and a real estate will approach the pricing.
Thank you. Folks, I'm going to harp on this point, and I make no apology about it. The last words on that slide, do your homework, okay? There is no shortcuts here. There is no shortcuts in doing your homework. You're about to buy the most expensive asset many of us will ever buy. You can't do it one Saturday afternoon built on emotion. It is done, if it is done well and it is done properly, it is done through a process. You need to do your homework. You need to be structured about how you do your homework. You need to keep records. You need to attend auctions. You need to look at property. You need to understand your market. There is no shortcut, and people can't do it for you. All right. So if you leave here today with just one thing, leave here today with that. You do your homework.
Doing homework will help you minimise or mitigate any risk. And if you've heard the old risk and profit, you can make good money on your own home and investment properties, but what you're trying to do there is not make any mistakes. You want to minimise that risk. Okay. So you've got to go through and do your homework.
Great advice. I'm going to bounce through a couple of these slides. I think they're fairly self-explanatory. We're talking about how prices vary greatly throughout the city. Like I said to you earlier, when we're talking about the property market, and people say, what's the property market doing? In Blacktown, it can move completely independently of multiple, and does, okay, and does. So we can't talk about the property market. We need to talk about properties within the market, okay? House and unit prices down there again, you can see the differences. This is a very interesting slide, and I think also quite topical. Yesterday, $50 billion got written off the Australian share market. All right, it did. Okay, that's what happened. Interestingly, when the stimulus package was put out, I think a couple of years ago, about 18 months or so ago, to save our economy, they put $40 billion into the economy to rescue us, and maybe they did. $50 billion got written off on the share market yesterday. Okay. $50 billion didn't get written out of property yesterday. It is a far more stable investment, and the statistics prove it. Let me show you one little point here. You can see this thing here. Okay, that was the GFC. Okay, if you had a look at the equivalent time with shares, it was far more horrific than that, as we found out yesterday. So I think what you can see here with property, you can draw a mean line through here, and that's the direction it takes. Sometimes it plateaus, and I think it's probably plateauing currently, but the reality of it is it always goes up. My point in all of this, if you're sitting on your hands waiting for it to crash, I don't think it's going to happen.
I think another point on that slide there, you can see that's the last 10 years, property's gone up in both houses and units. But what we've got in New South Wales at the moment, for the last 6 years, the state government's been 10,000 properties a year behind on supply. So we've still got people coming into the state. They all need houses, they all need shelter. But whilst we've got this anomaly with the supply and demand, the New South Wales market's going to come up. So we've got investors starting to return to the market. So when that driver was taken out in 2004, it slowed down. Now the investors are out and about looking, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of them in about an hour.
Folks, we have unfortunately run out of time. We do have a few more slides which will be available on our website and also on Facebook and all of those other clever places where people put things these days. I do thank you for your time, and we will be over at stand 109 if anybody has any additional questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.